Hey guys, good morning. Happy Friday. It's another beautiful day in Virginia, fall, Indian summer. One of my favorite seasons for sure here in Virginia. And looking forward to picking up the kids from school later today and having a good evening with them. Make sure you take the time to spend time with your kids and your loved ones. Don't get too carried away in your business and lost and again being unbalanced, like I said in the last video. Make sure you keep that balance as much as you can and enjoy those small moments. And if it's just tonight, we're just gonna go grab pizza with the kids. It's kind of a Friday. I know a lot of families also kind of have that tradition, and it's the small things, right? You don't need to all the time jump on a plane to go to some desert beach to enjoy being in the moment and being with the family. You can just do it locally and just spending time with your kids. That's really a big part of it. So, this video, and there'll be more videos on this. And, I've been staying quiet, kind of on the sideline for years. Again, being from France originally, immigrating with my family when I was 9 years old. And so I've, come from another world, another older society, and for very much had these immigrant mindsets for sure. And seeing what's been going on in America over the last several years, this divide. I'm in my mid 40s, and I've been working for 25 plus years. And the nice thing about being in real estate and construction is I get to hang out with all sets of people in society, from the folks working on the construction sites to the wealthy investors and bankers. And so I get to see it all, and I have lunch with all, and that's what I love about my job. I love being around different people and learning from them, and I learn everything. But I've just been watching, and what made this country great is we could agree to disagree. And I think what makes me sad, and if you feel a lot of energy around this, is more of sadness. And again, I'm always glass half full, and I think that's just the way I think I'm wired, and obviously I'm biased about how you have to be. So before I go on this tangent, I'm really hopeful that the pendulum will swing, and this is just kind of a period that America, still being a young country, is going through. But this divide that I've seen in Americans on both sides, and I consider myself pretty neutral. I mean, I consider myself fiscally conservative, socially liberal. Fiscally conservative, you have to be, because if you're not, again, being from France, and you see where France is today, you have to be, right? Because if you don't have that, if you don't keep your house in order, and the government is all of us, right? I mean, I know a lot of people say, well, I hate politics, I don't want to get involved in government. I get it, but at the end of the day, government represents us, and they put laws in place, and they have a say in the shift of our country. And so this divide, and I know I'm jumping around here, and there's going to be more videos that I'm going to put together about this, because I'm just kind of been sitting on the sideline, and it's, part of this channel is sharing, my beliefs, and hopefully getting people to think about things a little differently. And it just kind of broke in my heart to see the political divide on both sides, because I have friends from both sides, and I think over the last few years, they've both, folks I'd say left of center have gone more left, and people right of center have gone more right, and it's just, I've seen families, I've heard families, and I've seen families not talk to each other because of this divide. And again, one of the things that make America great is that we could agree to disagree. And so let me tackle a couple of different points, right, that people forget. This is me looking at it from immigrant eyes and having studied history, right? And again, the founding fathers were not perfect, right? No one's perfect, but they really believed in service, right, above thyself. And the reason why we're not living in China and Russia is because those founding fathers, those early families that put this country together, they wanted the power to stay with the people, right? People forget, back then they wanted George Washington to be emperor. They offered him to be emperor. And he refused it. He said, no, the power has to stay with the people. Go find me a majority of the politicians today on Capitol Hill on both sides that wouldn't say yes to that. And that's what the founding fathers said. And this is why history, when you look, unfortunately, democracies, why they don't last more than 250, 300 years, is because at the end, what's the one root evil of humans, right? It's power, money, and in a way, today in America, that's what we're fighting right now. The average net worth in Congress and Senate on both sides is $8 to $10 million, right? So, why go in the private sector, take the risk, sign at the bank your house to create jobs when you can be a multi-millionaire being a politician? And that's why a lot of people, a lot of those guys and gals, that's what they're doing. But the founding fathers didn't believe in that, right? George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, a lot of these guys, they wanted to go serve, and then when they were done serving, they go back in the private sector and go back to their private lives. They never saw government being a career. And now, unfortunately, it's seen as a career. Same as in France. When you look at France the last 40 years, what has been going on has been a slow decline because of that. Because of politicians taking for themselves, right? And putting the country in massive debt. They want you to pay the taxes, but they want you to take all the risk while they're still flying on jets and eating caviar and drinking champagne. That's what we call them, champagne socialists. That's what we call them, right? They're not living the life that they're preaching. And same here, a lot of these politicians, they're not living the life they're preaching. They're, the book deals, the speaking gigs that they have, they become multi-millionaires off of, telling you to live a life that they're not even leading themselves. And so, again, going back to the founding fathers, is, China and Russia, those countries are essentially controlled by a couple families. Let's say 100 or so families, right? Everything else, the people don't control. And the founding fathers could have done that. They could have locked this whole place up. They could have had all the land pretty much locked up. And today, guys like me who are working on building housing, I wouldn't have those opportunities. And a lot of you wouldn't have those opportunities, because they would have had it all centralized like they do in China, and a lot of us wouldn't have had the opportunities. But life's pretty simple, and society's pretty simple, right? People want to overcomplicate it, so they want to lose you into the details, so you get confused. But it's really simple, right? You have to have laws that are enforced, right? That keep people in line to not, steal, commit murder, all these things that make a society function, right? Those are important to have. So there's a place for that in government, right? But then having government come in and create too many government jobs, because you got to remember, who creates the jobs, right? I mean, it's and I'm not just saying this because I've been an entrepreneur all these years. When you look at society, someone's got an individual or a group of individuals start a business to create jobs that then pay taxes to the government, that then have government jobs, to help keep government in place, and all that's important. But when you look at a country like France, that's the opposite. It's lopsided, where it's made it so difficult for the private sector to function, then the country becomes bankrupt. In France, and this has been going on for years, but as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you can pay up to 75% income tax. So for every dollar you make, 75 cents goes to the state. And above and beyond dealing with all the stress and taking the risk, that's the thing. A lot of this boils down to risk, right? To start a business, you got to take risk, right? When you're working for the government, and that's the advantage of working for the government, is no one's asking you to sign your house on a loan for you to make money that month, that year, right? And so, of course, should be compensated accordingly. When you get in a situation like France and unfortunately many sectors in America where you're making more the public sector, in the private sector, how can that be sustainable? Why is somebody going to go and take the risk and the sleepless nights? And that's the thing, right? Most people in government have never gone through that. They've never had those sleepless nights worrying how they're going to make money next month on their business, worrying about how they're going to get more customers, worrying about how to keep their employees happy. They never had that, right? So again, I believe in paying the fair share of taxes, but 75%, that's just way too much, right? And obviously America's not there today, but it doesn't happen overnight. This is the thing. It doesn't even happen in 4 or 5 years. This has been going on for 40 years in France. After World War II, France was a booming country. It was just like America, very entrepreneurial. That's how my parents and my wife's parents were business owners and had great success. It was a very pro-business country. But for the last 40 years, when socialism came to town, it made it very difficult, right? And that's definitely one of the reasons our families left. Why give all the money to the state, take all the risk, give all the money to the state, have them make your life miserable on telling you how to run your business every day? Who's going to do that? And you don't even have to go to France to look. And just look at California, right? Which I always call kind of the French version in America. It's a similar thing. Look at the rankings of businesses to do. Look at the rankings of businesses, pro-business states in the country. California is always at the bottom, right? And why, and why is everybody leaving California? If it was working, if that idea of those systems, those values were really working, why is everybody leaving? California's got the best weather in the country, arguably, right? Beautiful sceneries. Love the food in California. Love spending time over there. So if it was such a great system, why is everybody leaving? Right? Because at the end of the day, all humans we're all pretty much the same, right? We want to be able to live in peace, right? Have a roof over our head, be able to raise our kids in peace, be able to provide for our families, be able to dream, right? Be able to tell our kids that, hey, if you have an idea, go and do it. We all want to live in a country where people can do that. And America, for a long time, that's what it was. And it still is today. It still is. But, being 25 years as an entrepreneur, I've definitely seen it change. I'm not saying the American dream is gone. I'm not saying, again, I come from France. I come from Europe. So I know the other extreme. So I know how bad it can get. But if America is not careful here, you could be heading that direction. I would say we, as Americans as well, we could all be heading that direction. And it just makes me sad because I want our kids to dream. I want them to be able to start businesses. And I want them to live in peace. I want them to live in a country where laws are respected. We need to have laws. Adults are basically grown kids, right? And that's what I always tell people. And government is in a way a parent where you got to remind the kids that there's laws. You can't just go steal a car or go steal somebody's property or steal somebody's money. There's laws you have to respect, right? And abide to, just like you have in your household. And so to have a functioning society, you have to have that. And here's the other thing you have to remember. Like you look at a country like France, and I'm just using France as an example, and also California, is what happens after a while is the people who create the jobs, right? The people who take the risks, those people have more means, right? So they can afford to move. That's what they'll do. They'll move. They're not going to stay. And when you have enough decades of that, you end up in a place where there's no money left to pay for the system you created, for the champagne socialism, which is what's going on in France. In France, you have very, very wealthy people that always have an army of people to make sure they, that they pay not the 75%, right? And then you have the people who don't have much and are living off the government. But all the people in between, the middle class and small to medium-sized entrepreneurs, they've left. Well, the middle class is there and suffering, but those small and medium-sized businesses, they've left. And when you look at that's the other thing that, it's important to remember is when you should look it up. The majority of businesses in America are small and medium-sized. They're not these large corporations or these billionaires. People like us, right? And those people will leave. Just like, again, don't look. Let's look at California. Those people have been leaving for the last 20 years, right? And California keeps having to come up with new taxes to keep taxing the existing people that are there, because it's really simple, right? It's really simple. If you keep increasing taxes, if you keep growing government, and you have people leaving that were paying for that system, well, who's left to tax? The people that are there that can't afford to leave. And then it's just a death spiral. And you should look at France. They just got, they were double A minus, and they've been slowly over the years been degraded, and now they're single A plus. France is nearing a death spiral in the sense that they could become like Greece, where they can't afford their national debt anymore. They're as much and probably more in debt than France is, but they won't be able to afford it. So anyways, I'll be making more videos about this. You can see I get pretty heated about it, just because at the end of the day, it makes me sad. America, not perfect, right? Nothing is perfect. That's the other thing you gotta remember. Nothing is perfect, but America was founded on principles of putting service above thyself, right? To help thy fellow neighbor, to work together, right? And that's, I think, again, I'm biased, but I think that's how societies best function, when we work together. And again, government's important. I'm not saying it's not important, but not rely on government for everything. Rely on each other, rely on community, rely on our families. And I just hope it's a pendulum, and I hope it'll swing back. So hope you guys have a great weekend. And as always, please like, comment, share. That'll get the conversation going, and I look forward to it. Talk to you soon.